Welcome. My name is Zakia Ringgold, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another Baraka broadcast. And on this one, what we're going to be doing is a Baraka recipe using a butter bundle that you can get on the site. So right below me, I'm going to switch you so you have a different angle. The post before this one actually listed all of the ingredients for this, but this one, with our recipe, we're going to be using shea butter, cocoa butter, red palm oil, olive oil, castor oil, and coconut oil. Many of those, four of them, are all available in a Baraka blend that you can get on the website. It's a Baraka bundle, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about measuring the ingredients out. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to put them in the chat. Of course, let us know where you are watching from, as well as if you have any questions, put them in and I can try and answer them as we're going along. And of course, what is it that you have made today is always interesting, or something that you're looking forward to making. But if you've never been here with us before live, my name is Zakia Ringgold. I'd like to welcome you. If you have been here before, welcome back. We always enjoy seeing you come back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the camera so you all are actually able to see what we have on our table for what is going to be going in the bowl. So hopefully you can see, as I have laid out here, the four items that are absolutely positively amazing. Hello, hot watching from Chicago. That's the Herbal Root Woman. Thank you for tuning in again. So of course there is the coconut oil. There is also the shea butter, cocoa butter, and then red palm oil. I have already pre-measured the castor oil and the olive oil in here, and they've already been melted. We're actually going to melt these down as well. Hello from California. Let's bring you guys up. Let's make sure we can see your comments. I'm going to put you guys to the right, to the right. Everything you own in a box to the right. It doesn't go that way, but you know. So we have Herbal Root Woman checking in from Chicago, and Miriam checking in from California. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us. So this recipe is a pretty simple recipe, but it's extremely conditioning as well as cleansing. A lot of people say, well, how can I make my soap so that it's really, really conditioning and it leaves the skin really, really soft? You can do that with super fatting. However, you can't go overboard with your super fatting, because that means that a lot of your soap has not saponified and it could go bad faster. Much love, much respect. How are you, John? And we also have Cheryl checking in from Virginia. Good to see all of you, and thank you for checking in, guys. I appreciate it. I am showing that we are up to 99 viewers in the first 3 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. No matter where you are watching, please be sure to click the subscribe, the follow, the like, whatever your option is for liking, so that you get notified the next time we go live or we post a video. Who dies and glad to see you. Who died? Glad to see you. All right. So very important. If you have never made soap before, one of the most important things is to make sure you're being safe, meaning long sleeves. I break my rules. Do as I say, not as I do. Long sleeves, goggles, because you are working with sodium hydroxide, which is a caustic, and you don't want that going in your eyes. And then you also want to use gloves. Now, even though we use lye to make the soap, there is no lye in the final product once it's completed. So it's always a really good idea to make sure that you are protected with your hands, your shoes, longer sleeve. Don't wear tank tops. I wear tank tops in the summertime. It just gets a little too hot. Just gets a little too hot. So you also want to make sure that you have the tools, temperature, so that you can check your temperature, your scale, measurements, and temperature have to be two of the most important elements when you are making soap. So you want to make sure that you have a kitchen scale. You also want to make sure, is this liquid soap? This will be a bar soap. You're asking a really good question there, Cynthia. So the main differentiator when you are making soap on whether or not it's going to be a bar soap or a liquid soap is the caustic that you use. So because we are using sodium hydroxide, that's going to give us a bar soap. If we wanted to make a liquid soap, we would need to reformulate the recipe because we would then be using potassium hydroxide, which gives us a different saponification value than what we would have when we're using sodium hydroxide. But we will do a liquid soap. I actually have been making, what's in your wallet? I have been making liquid soap for the past couple of days. I'm relaunching my shop. Here is an activated charcoal soap, which we actually put some Baraka African black soap into, but we made this using potassium hydroxide. So that's a really good question, and hopefully I answered that for you. But this one will be a bar soap. You can always tell what you're going, well, if you're formulating your recipe, you should know which one you're using, but you can always tell if it's going to be a bar or a liquid by the kind of sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide that you're using. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure you have a working scale. That's what's down here. You guys can't see it, but there's my scale. You also want to have spatulas. If you have a soap maker in your life or you're a soap maker, you know how true this statement is. You can never have enough spatulas. You have to scrape things. You have to try and get as much of it out as possible because everything that you're putting in here, you want to get into your mold. You also want to have cutting utensils, especially if you have the cocoa butter, because sometimes you need to cut it down to get the exact measurement that you want. I have a spoon for helping me to get the shea butter out. I'm going to squeeze the coconut oil and the red palm oil out in here as well. And then, of course, the magic wand of all soap makers is a stick blender. Last but not least, you are going to need something to put it in. Now, I'm fancy. I'm queen, extra with everything. So we actually have this clear mold here so that you'll be able to see what's happening. I'm going to actually have a 24-hour soap cam going so you all will be able to see the saponification process because you pour it in the mold and then what happens over time, right? What happens over time? I remember when I first started making soap, I peeked because they said you're never supposed to peek, right? You're never supposed to look in there. But I peeked under it and it looked like Vaseline. It was just clear, transparent. And that was because the soap was going through what's known as the gel phase. But I didn't know. I thought I had did something wrong, and then it became opaque within the 24 hours. So I'm going to turn on our 24/7 soap cam, and you'll be able to like kind of take a sneak peek at it overnight to see as it goes through the process. So what are we saying? Herbal Root Woman says, I got a bunch of spatulas. You hear me? Yep, spatulas for Christmas gifts for soap makers. You can get them spatulas. You can get them bundles of oils and butters from Baraka. And we also have Laura. Hello, Laura, checking in from the high desert. Good to see you. All right, so we've gone over all of that. Let's talk about this recipe. For the shea butter, we're going to need 145 grams. Now, I typically like to measure in grams because sometimes it'll say ounces. And for instance, this particular recipe would be 5.12 ounces. A more precise measurement is the number of grams that's needed, which is going to be the 145.15 grams. So you want to get a scale that can measure in both grams and ounces. That's very important, just so you can get really close or really precise, not close, because saponification is breaking down these butters and the oils. So let's see here. And then this is also, if I wasn't making this for other people, I would use my hands. But you also don't want to use your hands. But if it's just for you, it's okay if you use your hands. Okay, so we need 145 grams of this shea butter. Now, this batch in the recipe that you have is going to make 5 pounds of soap for you. So you want to make sure that your mold can hold that amount or recalculate the recipes. Yes, our overhead cams are back. They are here so you can see in my pot as I am describing what in the world is going on here. So I went over just a tail. There we are. So there's our 145 grams. Next, we are going to do the cocoa butter. Now, I have not opened this pack yet. You saw this on the unboxing video where we got a ton of goodies. For the cocoa butter, we need 72 grams. So I'm going to see if I can just kind of grab a couple of pieces. Be sure to clear your scale out each time. Drop her in. And I do like that there are these little chunks so that you're able to kind of get it in. Cocoa butter has one of the highest melting points of all of the oils and butters that we use. So it takes quite a bit to melt them down. Some people, and I often do that on these broadcasts, I'll do what's known as like a heat transfer method. And that is where we allow the heat from the live solution to actually melt the oils and the butters. We're not going to do that on this one. What we're going to do is throw this in our microwave, which is behind us there. And I went over. Let's see, can I take this little piece off? That takes me down to 77. You don't tell, I won't tell. But we have 77 grams there. All right, now we need our red palm oil. That one is 217 grams. I'm going to save the red palm oil until last because I want you to see the beautiful color that it puts into the soup. Porgy Town, hello there. Very good to see you. So let's do our coconut oil. So for our coconut oil, guys, if you have not tried it, you have got to try this. It smells like you have cut a fresh coconut open when you open this coconut oil here. Much love, much respect. You are seen and heard everywhere. Thank you for running the bases. All right, so we have 362 grams that we need for the coconut oil. All righty. We're going to squeeze her up. Squeeze her up. And now with a 5-pound batch, you can get about 15 bars of soap out of that. Or more. How many did I say we need? 362. Oh, so close. 360. I just need like a little itty bitty piece. This is where those spatulas would come into play. Come on, you could do it. Come on now. Go ahead. I went over again. We're at 366. So we're going to have a bit of a super fat in here, but not to worry. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the microwave. You guys can take a look. So far we have done the coconut oil, the shea butter, and the cocoa butter. We've already melted down or measured out our olive oil as well as our castor oil. While I am doing that, if you have not said hello already, please be sure to put that in the chat. And if you have said hello, tell me what you are making or where you are from while I go ahead and get this in the microwave. I still have my coffee in there from earlier. Jeez Louise. All right, so we're going to get that down. Just putting it in there for about 3 minutes. That'll give us plenty of time for me to catch up on anything that you have said. Bases ran. Miss Francis is saying, if we don't have the red palm, can we use something else instead? That is an amazing question. You can always swap out oils and butters. The most important thing, though, is whenever you swap them out, you rerun your recipe. So you couldn't just say, I don't have the red palm oil, but I have palm oil. So I'm just going to use the 217 grams of the palm oil. Remember, they have different saponification values, so they take a different amount of sodium hydroxide to go through the soaping process. Hello, Cynthia is here from Maryland. Very good to see you. And she is of Be Better Naturals. I make body butters and body scrubs. And I'm from Melbourne, Australia, which means I should be saying good day, mate. Very good to see you here. Porgy is from Miami, and my cousin is from Philadelphia, but in California. So I hope I answered the question about swapping out. If you don't have the red palm oil, you can absolutely positively swap it out or you can just reformulate the recipe without it. You do need to rerun that through a soap calculator if you don't know how to formulate the recipes by hand. Got to run the recipe again through the soap calc. You are the best. All right. So while that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and measure out the red palm oil in here, because then we'll just mix them all together. So for red palm oil, we need 217 grams. Now this will naturally color your soap. It's going to give it a beautiful amber color. So you want to consider that if you are doing like a really fancy design with purples and blues and greens, you might not want to use the red palm oil because it will alter the color of your soap. Josh is saying so. How are you, Josh? All right, so we have 217. All right, so I'm going to measure this out and make it 218 grams because I'm going to round up. It's 217.72, which means I'm going to make it 218. I need to cut that a little bit bigger. There we go. Just so we got a little more of an opening and I'm not squeezing for dear life here. All right, so we're going to go to 218 grams. Go ahead. You can do it. It looks really interesting. When we were in Ghana, I said this on the unboxing video, many of the foods were cooked in red palm oil, and it gave it such a distinct flavor. It was really good, and it also imparted this color to it as well. Notice when I go to wipe my glove off, it'll have that color on there. It doesn't stain, but you'll notice that color. We're at 205. Come on, Carol Ann. Almost there. Step into the light, Carol Ann. All right. Let's see what we got. 13. 17. I said we're going to round up, so still at 217. I'm going to imagine, so you can see the color there, and you can also see them. There you go. On my little fingers. On my little fingers. Let me grab a paper towel. So now we are just waiting. Listen, look at that. Look at that, Carol Ann. Microwave is done. Now, it may not be completely melted, but that's okay. What we'll do, my Lord, we got some chunks in there, and I guarantee that those chunks are probably the cocoa butter. Oh, it smells so good. It smells so good. We are going to be making this as an unscented soap, guys. There won't be any scent on here at all. I'm going to use the scents from the oils and the butters that we're using. I need a smaller, or my face is getting smaller because it just keeps on going on down. You know how your grandmother they talk to you with the glasses on the tip of their nose? That's what's happening here. Melinda from Santiago. Hello. How are you? Good to see you. Now I know soap is not edible, but the process reminds me, so it is so much like baking. One of the main reasons why I got into soap making is because I could not cook. And nobody would actually need to eat what it was that I was making. But it fed the skin. And it did, a lot of it is like you have to measure your ingredients. All of that is very similar to baking. And if you rush it by taking shortcuts, people can tell the difference. So it's very similar to baking, John. I would agree with that. So we now have all of our oils in here. I'm just going to kind of blend them just a little bit, just to get them incorporated. And it's kind of therapeutic too at the same time. It's like you can go into your little Zen zone there. You can kind of see that color coming up along the side. I wanted to use this white bowl so you would be able to see that. Oh, it's coming across beautifully on the screen. You guys can see that. Now we just want to get these kind of incorporated together. Now you don't need to do this, but it kind of just allows you to get it to the way you want. So relaxing to watch, yeah. Make sure you breathe. I often have to, I find myself not breathing at times where I'm like on bated breath, holding my breath for whatever reason. And this just gives you a chance to kind of just be present in the moment with what you're doing. Okay, so the only thing we've done is we've measured out all of our oils based on the recipe. From there, what we're going to do is mix in our lye solution. Now, I always tell students in live soap school, have everything that you need laid out before you start measuring, mixing, blending. Because with soap making, sometimes when you add a fragrance, it starts to speed up. If you've ever been on my broadcast, we think it's going to go one way and it goes a completely different way. Um, if you are hunting for the things that you need, then you're losing time. Whereas if you just have it laid out for yourself, you are in wonderful, wonderful shape. It looks so beautiful. How do you make sure the mixture has been mixed well, that the chemicals are cooperating with each other? Dee says she does that too, with just kind of taking a moment to be present and laying all of the ingredients out. I want 2 bottles of peppermint body wash, please, and thank you. Yes, that's all behind me. I'm actually running a special where it's going to be buy 2 get 1 free. So I'll talk about that after we finish this one here. I love having all of your books you wrote. Anyone wanting to learn, I do recommend them. Thank you, Miss Francis. If you guys don't know, that's a really large comment, but hopefully you get the point. I published the new Soap Makers Cookbook, which walks you through how to get started making and selling your own handmade soap. There's 4 books in the series. The first one has to do with mindset, just what we were talking about here in terms of being present, and then the basics for making cold processed soap. That's all there. So thank you, Miss Francis. And I think we are hiding. We are up to 179 across all of the streams. So I'm going to pause before we go on, and I'm going to get prepared so that if this recipe starts to go much faster, we are ready for it. And it doesn't get to do what it wants to do. So I'm going to move our ingredients off to the side so that our mold is ready to go when we're ready to pour. Now, we're not adding any color. We're not adding any fragrance. This is a basic batch. And that way you get a chance to see how the ingredients work without you needing to do anything. So we have our recipe down here. We have our lye solution. And I'm going to go back to I think it was what John asked in terms of how do you ensure that everything is mixed well. We call that trace in soap making, and you're going to see it because you're overhead. When I go to pour this lye solution in, at first, oil and water, they like to separate. But because we have the sodium hydroxide in there, that's what's creating that chemical reaction. And so it's going to go from just being separated to an emulsion where they're kind of blended well with one another. And then they go to trace, where it kind of looks like a pudding, a really thin, runny pudding. And that's how you know. And Shirley Lewis, hello there, Shirley. How are you? Your soap books were great. They gave me the motivation to start making soap myself, start making soap myself. That's the best part. That is always the best part of these streams, when I get that feedback. So that's wonderful. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pour our lye solution in here. This is a combination of the sodium hydroxide and the distilled water. Remember, whenever you are making soap, you want to use distilled water, not your running water, well water, spring water, because the distilled water has removed all impurities from that. And so you'll have a really great product when you do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pour our lye solution in there. You can almost see it starting to change to a bit of an opaque. Or maybe you can't see that. So I'm going to get our stick blender in there. Give it just a little stir at first. And then I'm going to turn it on low. And you'll see. You see that? Look at that beautiful, beautiful color we're getting. Like, you don't need to add any color to this. This will do on its own. So I don't know if you can see, but you can still see some of the oil trailing there. That's letting you know that it's not completely blended. Sorry for the stick blender, but can't change that. This is music to soap makers. Every soap maker can identify this sound. All right. Now this would be considered almost a light trace. I can still see a little bit of the oil in there, but I don't want to blend it too much because I want it to be a nice fluid pour. Now what I am going to do, bonus, everybody's ready for a bonus, we're going to actually add some cocoa powder to a small portion of the soap. That's going to naturally color it with the brown, and then it'll give it that nice cocoa smell as well. Cocoa smell may not stay throughout the saponification process, but that'll just give us two different colors in the batch so that we can do a bit of a drop swirl. Now, I don't want to keep stirring this, but John, to answer your question, when I lift my stick blender up, it kind of leaves a little bit of a trail on the top. That lets me know that that is as much blending as I need to do. Now, a lot of times I'm running my mouth on these broadcasts and not paying attention to what my batter is doing. And when that happens, I stick blend to oblivion. So as you can see, hopefully you can see, we have a really nice consistency. It almost looks like cake batter, if you know how to make a cake. Even if you don't know how to make a cake, hopefully you've had the opportunity to lick a bowl. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab us another bowl so that we can actually get some of the cocoa powder in. If you're ever adding color to your soap, you do want to separate just a small portion out into a bowl so that you can keep the colors distinct. I got you, and I definitely saw the color change. All right. All right, so we're just going to pour some. Some people are very, very specific in how much they pour. I know I don't need a whole bunch of it. Just enough there. Let me grab the cocoa powder. So this is an extra, and the beauty of making your own soap, you can experiment with different things that you want. Generally, you only need about a tablespoon of the cocoa powder. I'm going to eyeball it, so there you go. I'm going to eyeball how much we're going to use. I don't think I have another spoon available. Oh, yes, I do. All right, and this cocoa powder is cocoa powder, so you can make it for making homemade hot chocolate. You can make cookies with it. You can make all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to take about that much on a spoon. My grandmother was trying to teach me how to make potato salad, and I was asking her for like specifics on the measurement. She was like, a pinch, this much, that much. I'm like, Grandma, your pinch is a little bit different from my pinch. Look at this color. So you guys can see it. I think I can do a hair more. Just a hair more. Oh, I used the wrong spoon. Darn it. Now, I will say I am seeing like little like polka dots in there. One thing that you can do to prevent that is instead of pouring your cocoa powder directly into your batter, you can pour it into some oil first, stir it up really well, and then pour it into your soap batter. But I'm going to take my spatula, give it a little bit of that elbow grease, a little bit of wrist action going with it. And now we have this beautiful chocolate color to go into our soup. And we're just going to have that layer right on the top. Now, I didn't do anything. Do you see this? It's already thickening up, so we better get it into the mold, which is what we're due. Can you guys see? I can't see. It seemed like a good idea. Now, the interesting thing about this mold is it can go on a slant. So if I want it, I'm wasting soap. There's still soap in there. I wish you guys could smell this cocoa. If you want some chocolate, I've got some cocoa powder. Can't really make you chocolate, but it is cocoa powder. And I got it coming off the side there. You know what would have been smarter? Put the daggone mold down here. I hear you guys chatting over there. I'm going to see it in a second. Now, I do want to tap this because there is definitely the chance for air bubbles in there. All right, and now we're just going to take that chocolate layer after we tap it. Sorry, guys, I can't mute you. Now we're going to just put that right on the top. And this will definitely have people saying, is that soap? And they'll say, yes, that's soap. Let's get her come back down. I think I used a 7-pound mold. Darn it, Gina. Now I'm just going to scrape this off. What are you guys saying? Hello! I love the color of that palm oil. I see. I think if you have put the mold the long direction, we could see. Yeah, I think you're right, Miss Francis. But I'm getting back into the swing of things here, so hopefully I'll figure out the right angle for these streams. Get her in there. Yeah, that palm oil, that natural caramel color that it gives the soap is amazing. Now, because this is a pretty thick consistency, if you wanted to, go ahead and use the back of your spoon to give it some kind of texture on the top. You can also use your spatula to do the same thing. So I'm going to take this one here and just kind of like drag it over. And then that way you'll be able to have peaks on the top of your soap, so it's not just flat. And if you want to leave it flat, you can do that as well. So I'll go from one side just like that, and I'm just dragging the spatula from one side to the other. I know I'm not going all the way over. Looks like chocolate icing. What type of soap is that? So this is just a Baraka soap that we made today. I gotta come around this way, guys. There's the spatula. Just so I can see this side. And I'm gonna bring this over so that we end up with a peak coming both ways. It definitely looks like frosting. And then if you want, you can kind of clean that up. You don't waste the soap. Make sure it gets back in the mold. Bring her back. Okay, so you can see it's just that really small layer of the brown, but the majority of this soap, first of all, it's uneven. This side I poured higher, but the majority of this soap is going to have this natural color from the red palm, and that was what we were after for this particular recipe. No additional colorants were added. We added the cocoa powder to just a small portion of the batter. We wasted some batter. Dear gosh. Don't do that. We might get some of this on there. I'm about to ruin it, but I can't waste this soap batter. That's a lot. Gotta scrape. Get it all out of there. Alright, so we're gonna have. Sorry, guys. I know you're like, it was finished. What are you doing? We got soap in here. I thought we would make it all the way up, but we won't. Gotta come back. I'm about to ruin her. Now, I don't I don't recommend that you actually do what that part. Ignore the ending of ignore the ending of the video. But everything else I did is copacetic. But I just couldn't leave that much soap. I could not leave that much soap in the bowl. Waste not, want not. All right, what are you saying? What type of soap is that? So this is just a red palm soap with some cocoa butter added to give it some additional color. Looks like chocolate icing. What are some of the skin benefits? So palm oil, red palm oil in particular, is extremely conditioning to the skin. We also used shea butter as one of the primary ingredients in here. And shea butter is one of the butters that has the highest percentage of unsaponifiables. And what that means is, of all the butters and oils that you could use for making your own natural soap, shea butter in particular, it withstands that saponification process. So as it's being broken down by the lye, a lot of the qualities of the shea butter remain after that saponification process. Um, so that's the primary thing. We wanted a conditioning bar that does not leave your skin feeling stripped. But that's the main reason why we used it. And we also wanted to have this amazing natural color come through from the red palm oil. Now, we used a combination of olive oil, castor oil, coconut oil, red palm oil, shea butter. Was this 5 ingredient? And castor oil. All of those combined, and when you start making your recipes, when you combine them, what you're trying to do is get that perfect mix for what you want. Some oils are going to be more cleansing, others are going to be more conditioning, others are just really helping for the saponification process. As you can see, we went to a really quick pudding almost phase, and that has to do with the castor oil because that will speed up the saponification process. Nice, Shanaria said. Looks good, and I bet it's going to feel oops, dude. Oh, it does look pretty. It doesn't look what I had in my mind of how I was about to ruin it. It didn't appear. It doesn't appear to be ruined. So let me see. I will bring it this way. But the nice thing, the reason I have this mold in particular, and this stand, is this allows me to adjust it so that I can have different angles when I'm pouring the soap. Now, my soap didn't stay fluid long enough, but what we could have done is poured a corner, had it tilted, and then poured another one, so it would have kind of looked like two triangles. But next time, it's a reason to tune in again. So I am Zakia Ringgold. I am so glad